Hi guys, today we're going to look at the major events of the American Revolution. In class, we talked about how these 5 major events kind of go in alphabetical order. We have L, S, V, Y, and then we get STOP for Signed Treaty of Paris. The other thing that I talked to you about in class was basically a phrase that each one of these could say if somebody was at the event that starts with a letter. So if I was at Lexington, I could say, look, the British are coming. If I was at Saratoga, I could say, so now the French help us. If I was at Valley Forge, I could say, very cold. And if I was at Yorktown, I could say, yay, we won. So we're going to go ahead and start with Lexington and Concord. Lexington and Concord are the first battles of the American Revolution. The British Army was on its way to take weapons and ammunition away from the Patriot soldiers. And along the way, they get into a fight with the Patriots. We don't know who fired the first shot, but that first shot is known as the shot heard round the world. This is important to us because it shows that Americans were willing to fight for their independence. Now, of course, we have some minor battles that happened between Lexington and Concord and Saratoga. However, you are just responsible for L, S, V, Y, and STOP. Now, in Saratoga, the Americans finally defeat the British in a major battle. This is like a turning point for us. So you can see right here we have it turning. The Americans are going to start winning major battles of the war, and the effect is that the victory is going to convince France to become our ally. And we desperately need some support because the British had even hired German mercenaries to help them fight against the Americans at this time. Now, when we get to Valley Forge, remember that Valley Forge is not a battle. Valley Forge is the harsh winter camp of George Washington and his troops. We have to remember that in the old days, people would stop fighting in the winter time and everybody would go and have like a rest break. Well, at Valley Forge, it is very, very cold. We have many soldiers walking around without shoes and socks. People are losing their feet and their toes to frostbite. There is very little food and supplies, and many of the soldiers are going to desert. However, George Washington becomes a really great leader here at Valley Forge because he's trying to convince the Continental Congress to get more food and supplies for his guys, and he's trying to just motivate his troops. Valley Forge is significant to us, though, because here we have people like Marquis de Lafayette and Baron von Steuben who help come in and train the troops to become a fighting force instead of just a ragtag group of guys with no experience. All right, then for Y, our final battle, we have Yorktown. This is where George Washington uses strategy to surround the British. The British are basically forced to surrender because they're surrounded on all sides. This leads to the very end of the war, where then we are going to sign the Treaty of Paris. Yorktown is important to us because the Americans finally win the war and the American Revolution comes to a close. Now, even though we win our independence, it's going to take another 2 years. Yorktown's in 1781. Signing the Treaty of Paris does not happen until 1783. The Americans send over representatives, and King George sends over representatives, and they meet in France, in Paris, France. There they are going to negotiate a treaty, and each side is going to have to give up something to get something. So Treaty of Paris, signed Treaty of Paris, is important to us in 1783 because it officially ends the war. Britain recognizes the United States as a free country. The Americans gain land, so they are now going to be able to move west, and their western border is going to be the Mississippi River in 1783. And the United States is going to have to agree to stop persecuting loyalists, although we discussed in class that many of the loyalists felt that they were not going to be treated fairly after the war, so many loyalists decided to move up to Canada, which was still controlled by the British. All right, I want you to review your videos, study your notes, and we will have our quiz tomorrow. Have a great night.